This is episode 104 in our AMMO Training Academy, Essential Car Cleaning Steps, where we're gonna wash and dry the car step by step in sequential order. Engine, wheels, paint, interior, and glass. Let's go do it. In this chapter, we're going to walk you through the actual cleaning steps while referring back to our one-page master guide. Have it in front of you for the next few minutes so you can hand scribble in notes as you see fit. Before we can get started cleaning, remember to always prepare your 3 buckets before water ever touches your car. You do this to avoid water drying on the paint as you hurry to fill your buckets with water and soap. As you can see in the rules section, number 1 is to fill up your wheels, wash, and rinse bucket before each section, so you might as well get it done now. That's one wash. That is absolutely disgusting. So that's one wash. This is one wash on the paint, and then this is the rinse bucket afterwards. So I purposely left these so we could put it on film, but when we're done with the whole wash and at the end of this little series here, you're gonna wanna clean these before you get started. If you forget or you're in a rush or your kid needs you or whatever, fine, just leave them and wash them before. Like don't put soap in here. The interesting thing is if I were to take the car soap here and pour it in, right, and all the suds would come out, you would actually attack the things that are in there right now, which is not what you wanna do. When you have the suds, when the suds come out, they're going into the dirt and encapsulate that and carry it away. But if you're introducing from the very beginning more dirt, you're making the soaps ineffective or less effective. So keep that in mind. If you have dirty buckets or dirty wash mitts, you're already starting at like 70% effectiveness with the formulas. Hopefully that makes sense. So keep everything clean. Quickly rinse out the bucket with hose water and replace the grit guards. Then repeat the process quickly for any mitts, brushes, or woolies that may not have been cleaned after the last wash. If they're already clean, then start filling the buckets with the appropriate soap and or water. Okay, we have 3 clean buckets and clean tools. Now we're going to fill up the wheel bucket first. I have Brute wheel soap. Now I have a difference between wheel soap and paint soap. This is very soft and gentle, and it's not going to remove any layers of protection, while the Brute soap is a little more harsh or strong, let's say, to fight all this brake dust that's here. So it's 2 separate things. Anyways, we're going to take the wheel soap. I take 3 big squirts, put that down. Then I'm gonna take the paint soap, and what I do here is I do 3 big squirts, but I do 1 on the bottom of the bucket, right here, and then I do 1 on the outside of the mitt, and then I actually do 1 on the inside of the mitt. Now it's kind of like a time release plan here, and so what happens is when I'm washing it, not all the soap comes out at once. That's why I do that one. And the third one is just gonna be rinse water, where we take our wash mitt once we're finished cleaning one section of it, and we're gonna dunk that off. So right now, let's just fill these up and get them ready to go and start the car. Okay, now that our buckets are 3/4 of the way full, let's go look at our list and figure out what's the next step. All right, so if we look on our sheet here, first thing is clean, which is exactly what we're doing. Sequence, first thing we're gonna start with on this side is the engine. So I'm gonna open up the hood and we're gonna pre-rinse with water. We can spray and clean with plumb or all-purpose cleaner depending on how dirty the engine is. And then we're gonna wash with Brute, which is our wheel bucket. Same idea, it's a very dirty area, so we can use our wheel bucket here. And we're gonna keep continuing going down this list. So like I said, I'm gonna keep coming back and referring to this just so we can get the training idea. As you get better and better, you don't need to come to this every single time, but for the purposes of this video, we're gonna follow through so that by the end of it, you guys go, oh, okay, cool, I get what Larry was trying to do here. So open the engine, pre-rinse it. Before you get started with any section, take a quick look down to the rules section to make sure you adhere to the directions prior to possibly damaging the car or hurting yourself. In this case, make sure the engine is cool to warm, but not hot, and avoid soaking any part of the engine with water, especially the alternator or any other electrical units, and always wear protective gloves and glasses. You got the hood open right now, the car is off, and it's cool to the touch. Clearly, we don't want to be cleaning anything with the engine running. It's very dangerous. Now, in this particular car, there's a ton of plastic, so I don't really need to cover anything, but if you kind of squeak back there, if you can see, you got the old Impala with the hood open. That's got an older engine, and if we were going to clean that one, you're going to have to put some tin foil, you're going to have to put some plastic on the alternator and some of the exposed things. It's a very old car, so these new ones, you can hit them pretty well, and they're not going to cause an issue with sparking and that kind of thing. So before you put the water on, clean out some of the old leaves and junk and these edges here, because if you get them wet, they're just a nightmare to clean out. So
take a minute or two and get your hand in there, maybe a little brush. If you have compressed air, you can do that too. Now we're gonna pre-rinse, and you can see this is just after a few weeks of driving. Now, a lot of you are gonna be saying, hey, do I need to clean the engine every time I wash my car or detail my car? The answer is no. If you look on your master guide, I suggest doing it every 2 to 3 months, just to kind of keep up with it, a quick rinse, quick wipe down. The more you do it, the shorter period time, it'll take you, sort of like cutting the lawn. If you let the lawn grow for 6 months, it's gonna be a nightmare to cut it down, but if you cut it every week, it's not that big of a deal. Same sort of concept here. So first thing we're gonna do with our method is pre-rinse this down. The key here is when you're using your hose, you're gonna open it in wide. So if I were to shoot it out this way, if I hold it, it's got a narrow stream. That's really putting a lot of water in that area. Or if I go wide, it's kind of fanning it out. So you wanna do a fan motion here, right? So here we go. That's it, that's the pre-rinse you want right there. Just to get a little bit of lubrication. You can see some of the dirt is actually traveling down. See a little bit right there, it's just starting to move. And it's kind of go down, but you're not soaking it by any means. All right, you're gonna use your wheel bucket and the tools in the wheel bucket and take your plumb wheel cleaner. And you're like, wheel cleaner on here? It's got a lot of detergent action on it that is gonna work well here. If your engine is super, super dirty, like again, the old Impala back there, you may wanna use a degreaser. So just a few light squirts.
Quickly agitate the crevices with your wheel brush and wheel woolly for the hard to reach areas, but do not allow the product to dry.
If you have dirt over here and then I agitate it and I move it over here in suds, as soon as it dries, you basically took the dirt that was dry here, you moved it over here. So you kind of didn't do anything except move the dirt from one location to the other. What do I mean by that? You got to keep it pre-rinsed if it's really, really hot. In this case, I haven't driven it all night, so it's cool. So you can see the suds are staying there. Same kind of concept on the paint. This whole time, the car would have just been sitting and drying, which is very, very not good. So don't do that. So I'm going to take my hose. You're gonna open it again. Remember, this is, you don't wanna use this, you wanna use that, the fan motion. And what I mentioned earlier, remember the hose where you can do that, like the fireman hose? That's why I don't like this, because I can manipulate this. I can go like this, wide, I can go a little bit small. Otherwise you have to use 2 hands, kind of annoying. So we're gonna go in here nice and wide. And just kind of rinse it down. It's as simple as that. You don't want to go too nuts here. So that's about as far as I'd like to go with that. Now we're going to grab our terry towels and dry this off. Now, if you do have compressed air, that's going to be great, or a master blaster, also amazing, but I didn't add them in the list because they're not what I consider 100% essential. They're really, really nice and really, really good, and I highly recommend them. Having said that, the point of this video is to get down to the bare minimum, the bare bones, and it just didn't make the cut as the absolute bare minimum. So you can use a terry towel, but if you take compressed air and a terry towel at the same time, you'll get through this in 2 seconds.
Keep in mind that this is not a long process, maybe 4 to 5 minutes at most. You're simply maintaining the engine's appearance, and this should not be an all-day project, particularly in this beginner series. Finally, close the hood until the first latch catches, but not all the way. You'll need to get back under the hood at the end of the wash process, so don't make more work for yourself now. Next in our clean sequence are the wheels. Take a quick glance down to remember the rules. Always start and finish one wheel from beginning to end. Do not spray cleaners and let them sit on the other 3 wheels as you work on the 4th. If you did this, this will allow the cleaner to dry and potentially damage the wheel. Likewise, the wheel should not be hot, and do not spray cleaners on rotors, especially if they're carbon ceramic. Rinse the rim, tire, and wheel well with hose water. The goal here is to knock off the majority of the heavy brake dust and dirt. Then reach into your previously filled wheel bucket and use the long wheel woolly starting at top dead center or 12 o'clock and work halfway around to the right. Once you're done, then start at the top again and work your way to the left. We do this to avoid bringing brake dust from the bottom up to the top because the flow of water will carry away most of the brake dust. There's no sense working over yourself. Next, use your lug nut brush to agitate the lug holes, valve stems, and tight spots on the rim. Then use your designated wheel mitt to clean the rear of the rim spoke by curling your hand in the mitt, then quickly reach and wipe behind the spoke. Clean the face of the rim with your wheel mitt, and then lightly clean your tires as well. If your tire is extremely dirty, you may need a stiff bristle brush or scrub by hand with your wheel wash mitt. Otherwise, a quick wipe with your brush should be sufficient. And then immediately rinse the wheel, tire, and wheel well with your hose. You can leave your wheel wet for now and move to the next one and start the process over. If you notice in the master guide, I added the exhaust in this cleaning section. After the second wheel is done, you obviously have to move to the other side of the car to start wheel number 3 and 4, but on the way there, you pass by the exhaust. Use the wheel bucket and tools to quickly clean the exhaust as well. Although the carbon buildup is considered contamination, it's far less damaging than the shards of brake dust, so the principle of cross-contamination does not apply here, but use your judgment based on the particular exhaust size, material, and shape. Be sure to finish wheels 3 and 4 after the exhaust and leave them rinsed or wet for now. We'll dry them after washing and drying the paint. The wheel cleaning process should not take more than 5 to 10 minutes depending on the intricacy and design of your rim and how much fun you're having cleaning the wheels. Washing and cleaning your wheels while listening to music can quickly consume an hour or two, and if you're having fun, then let your OCD loose and clean away. Just be sure to keep dunking your tools regularly to minimize any scratching.
Okay, now that our wheels are rinsed, it's now time to rinse down the paint. But if you look down on your master guide all the way down at the bottom at the rules, you'll see touch the paint. Make sure it's cool to the touch. You want to get out of the sun. So if you have that all taken care of, next thing is let's rinse it from the top down. And our goal here is to rinse off or knock off as much of the heavy dirt as possible. One of the reasons we do that is you want the soap to not have to fight something that it could have just easily been knocked off with the hose, kind of making it easier for your washing method and washing tools. So we're gonna go top down, but the place you really wanna focus your energy on is the lower portion of the car. Typically, see where this line is all the way running across? This is where it really gets dirty, behind the front wheel and behind the back wheel. So sometimes I'll turn it from fan mode into a little bit more of a sniper mode to kind of knock off this stuff. So if you can hit off, 70, 80% of it, it's just something you don't have to deal with during the wash. It's one less thing that can scratch the paint. Now, as you can see, I'm using a rubber hose and a rubber nozzle. Now, if you have a foam gun, if you have a pressure washer, these are great tools for this particular area or section of what we're doing right now. But since this is a beginner section, I'm going with the bare essentials, which is a hose and a nozzle. Now that the car's rinsed, we've actually lubricated it at the same time, which is really important. We're now going to wash it in what's called the top-down method. Now, a lot of you are saying, yeah, I know the top-down method, but we're gonna add a little step here to kind of minimize the amount of potential scratching you can do. So the first thing is we're gonna take our wash mitt, right? We're gonna dunk it in our water, put it up on top. Now, the purpose here is we're gonna do half of the roof because we can't really reach it. But if you have a shorter car, you can probably do, 3/4 of the roof. So we're gonna go back. Now the goal here is not to, you don't see me scrubbing like this. You don't need to necessarily scrub. You're just trying to create enough agitation where you can pick up any dirt on the roof, right? So now I'm gonna go back in, go to my water, make sure anything is knocked off. I'll take a quick look at it, making sure there's no rocks or something I picked up or a little leaf or a branch or something. Then from here, you're gonna do half the windshield. Now this is an important sequence. So we did half the roof, half the windshield. We're gonna go back in quickly, rinse it off. There's really nothing there. And now I'm gonna do half the hood, right? Notice I am not touching the front of the car and I'm not touching the lower parts yet. I'll show you. Then we're gonna come over here. We're gonna hit the glass. You can hit the mirror too. You can flip your wash mitt for the fresh side. So now, go back into the water and get some soap. We'll leave that there for a second. So right now I've done half of this, half the glass, half the hood. Now I've done this section. Now I'm gonna repeat it on this section here. But notice we're not gonna go to the lower part of the car. So I'm not touching this behind the wheel. So very, very dirty. I'm gonna come like this. Do your best not to go and scrub. You're not scrubbing anything. I'm barely touching enough so it doesn't fall off the car. So I'm not pushing. So now, and notice how I didn't really go over myself a whole lot. I'll push it, put it back in the water, wring it out. I'll look at it. There's nothing really in there to pick off, and I'll leave it in there for now. Okay, so at this point, I've done half of the car. Did half the roof, half the glass, half the hood. I haven't touched the front. I've done all the glass here and half the door, and I did not do the lower panel here, the lower rocker, or the trunk or the rear of the car. Those are the hot spot dirty areas. So what I'm gonna do is rinse this down and repeat the same process just on the other side. So now that both top sides of the car have been done, but not the lower parts, we're gonna first start on the front of the car, but we're gonna switch. Remember we have 2 wash mitts in here? We're gonna switch. Take this one, because I don't like to get my other one really dirty. I'm gonna start at the top. Remember, we've already done the hood. Come down, let that lubrication fall down, and just kind of agitate anything. Again, I cannot emphasize, I'm not pushing. I'm just barely letting these little fingers just grab any bugs and guts and something I don't want on the rest of the paint. And then we're gonna go into our rinse bucket, which is over here. I need to get, bring that over here. See, this is real time. Take that, just wring it out and make sure there's nothing big. That's one of the big issues or big problems that we run into is if you'll do something on the paint, you pick it up, you do it nice, it gets stuck in here, you go back in, you don't actually see it and it's like a little branch or something, and then you go back in and that's when you scratch your paint. So just a little FYI. Come in here, do this. I guess the point I'm trying to make here is don't use the same wash mitt for all the super dirty areas because it just contaminates everything and it basically scratches the heck out of your car for no reason. All right, so I'm gonna go back in the rinse, take the soap. Now I'm gonna go to this portion right here. Now this is the super, super dirty area. Again, that's why I use a different mitt. You can pick any one you want. This one just happens to be skinny enough where I can use it in this tight area. Come down here, down to one lower one. You can see some extra stuff on there. I don't know if you can see that in the light. See it all right here? I'll go in, kind of wring that out a little bit. Now we'll go to the back of the car. Now the back of the car abnormally has a lot of exhaust soot. And again, you got the back of the car. There's a weird airflow back here. I'm sure some sort of engineering or physics person can tell me, but a lot of junk goes on the back glass in this back section. And sometimes you do need to clay this over time. But basically I'm gonna take the same wash mitt. I'll start at the top and I do squeeze. Watch my hand right here. I'm gonna squeeze. I squeeze and pull it along. And look at all the work that's getting done without me actually doing anything. See how it's dripping off onto the ground? So again, the less touching I do, rinse it off, dunk it back in my soap, then I can come back in here, give it a light wash. Now I think people, when they're washing their car, they think they're like scrubbing clothes or cleaning dishes or something where they're just hammering the paint. I can't emphasize enough to you that I'm holding this wash mitt enough so it doesn't fall down. That's basically, I'm barely holding. I'm going like this, you know, metaphorically speaking, I'm going like this, right? So don't put too much pressure. And if you protect it, which we're about to do in the next section, you protect it properly, the dirt is just gonna kind of roll off, but it's not gonna just not exist like we talked about in the core detailing principles. It's still gonna be there, sorry. So this is kind of getting a little grimy now. Oops, so go into the rinse. Squeeze that out. That looks pretty good. Now I'll come in here and just do the sides. A lot of times I'll go in, like I said, I'll squeeze a little bit just to get it to run down. See, now it's doing work for you without you touching it. This is when the foam gun really works well, and we're going to talk about that in the advanced series. All right, I want to make a quick point before we move on to the next subject. This section I've already wiped, right? I'm going to do it again just for camera purposes. So I just wipe this again. Now with me agitating this and all the little dirt getting trapped in these bubbles, right? Me going back and scrubbing it number 2, scrubbing it number 3, and scrubbing it number 4. 2, 3, and 4 were completely useless wipes, and that's all you did was increase the chance of potentially scratching the paint or the glass or the tail light here, whatever. It doesn't matter what we're talking about. So my point is, if you wipe across like this one time, that's it. That's all you need to agitate if the car is protected the right way. You doing this is not actually doing anything but hurting or potentially hurting your paint. So keep that in mind. One wipe and you're done. Okay, some lower parts of the car, like right around here, you can see it needs to be wiped a little bit more. And I just said earlier, hey, you don't want to sit there scrubbing it. Okay, sometimes you need to go more than once, twice, maybe 3 times, just to kind of get in there. And a technique that you can use is, of course, you're still going to use this mitt, have it absolutely soaking. You see there's tons of water, but at the same time, you can take a hose and lightly spray it down while you're doing it. This is really going to help lubricate that spot and help you remove it. If you can see right there, putting a little bit more pressure down and it removes it, but you're adding so much more lubrication that you're sort of kind of negating any chance of it being scratched at the same time. So if you have a spot, usually behind the front wheel or around here, behind the back tire, you have that little bit of grease or grime that just doesn't come off with 1 or 2 strokes. I'm being reasonable here, like this makes sense, okay, fine. Then introduce even more lubrication. Remember, everything has to do with lubrication. Another quick point I want to make is I guess I'm getting worried. Some people are going to look at it and say, hey, Larry, that's insane. Looks like you were doing so many different steps. In reality, I'm not doing that many steps. I'm just saying, hey, when you do something, do it in this particular order. It'll take you 5 minutes to kind of think about it and say, all right, yeah, that makes sense, and then do it from then on. How good your car looks, it really depends on how you do this process, meaning when you're removing the dirt, remember that dream of mine where I could put like a vacuum on the car and kind of pull the dirt off? It doesn't work that way. We actually have to wipe it off. This is the make or break moment. So if you say, you know what, I'm not doing that, Larry, you're insane. I'm just gonna go up there, grab a mitt, wash it down. I'll use it for the wheels, use this one. I'll use the towel, I don't care. Okay, fine, you may get the short-term gain, but you're gonna get a long-term loss with that. What do I mean? The paint is gonna be scratched little bit by little bit by little bit. I call those love marks, and those love marks add up, and then if you put 2 hypothetical cars that are exactly the same side by side with 2 different methods, you'd be like, why does this car look better after 10, 15 washes than this one? Well, this guy saved a bunch of time up front and was like, I don't want to deal with it. I don't want to sit here and watch this long-winded explanation. I got it. But and he doesn't have it, because what happens is when he goes to look at his car and he brings it into the emergency room, meaning me, a pro, I go, oh, I can see that you haven't washed it properly. So this kind of cycle, I really want to try to get on camera and put into words that it's really not crazy for me to be doing these things if you care about your paint long term. If you don't, then wash it anyhow you want, and that's cool. But if you're got this far through the video, you care about how your paint looks. So I just wanted to emphasize that, because I was feeling a little self-conscious, like, hey, maybe this is so many steps, and then I'm thinking to myself, no, it's not that many steps. It's not that big of a deal. If you just want to do it right, this is the correct way to do it. So anyways, add lubrication, use the methods, wash it this way, rinse it down. Now we got to go into drying. I think a lot of people think of washing as this many steps. Drying is even more important in some cases than actually than washing. So let's get into that. Okay, with the car out of direct sunlight, now we just moved it up the driveway a little bit. You can pull it inside the garage. Anything you can do to just minimize the amount of pounding sun will help you, because it's going to dry too fast. This is probably the biggest part of this entire series, is drying the car properly. This is the most overlooked aspect of cleaning a car. We use 50 different soaps, 100 different wash mitts, all these techniques, power washers, foam guns, and they're all amazing. And we do that to lubricate the dirt off. But we sort of don't think about the lubrication process during the drying phase. So I'll give you a quick example here. When you're drying this now, just it sitting out in this dust, it's going to collect a little bit of dirt. Plus, there's no car ever in the history of any wash ever, even if you spent 10 hours washing it, there's still going to be a little bit of dirt left over. Why is that relevant? When you're wiping it down afterwards, you're basically wiping that dirt back into the car. So traditional ways of doing it, meaning chamois and water blades or beach towels, they're not designed to pick up and hold dirt or wax or anything in. Microfiber towels are. This is probably the #1 invention in the last 20 years of detailing. The chamois is designed to absorb the water, meaning it just soaks up the water, but it doesn't pick up any dirt. Plus, you don't wash the chamois. Like when I'm done with this in 5 minutes, it goes right in the wash. You don't wash your chamois, you don't wash your water blades. Does that make sense? So this concept is, if you master this at the very minimum, you're gonna save years on the life of your paint. So here's the technique. Microfiber towel, like I said, it picks up contaminants really well. We all know that, there's no arguments, but it doesn't pick up water well for whatever reason. To get around that, what you do is you take a hose and you rinse it down. You get it just a little bit damp, right? Once you get it damp, you wring it out. So now it's just barely wet. And for whatever reason, a damp microfiber towel, look at that, I mean, just picks up water, it just attracts water. So it's brilliant. So it checks that one box, the one box of hey, you know, if there's anything on the paint, how can I pick it up? Remember we talked about that before with like a little vacuum invention, meaning like just pick up the water, pick up the dirt. The microfiber towel will do that, chamois do not. Now, how do I, keeping with my theory, how do I lubricate the drying process? Now for that, I have a product that we came up with called Hydrate paint moisturizer. Now it's very, very thick and viscous, but basically you spray it on, you goop it on, see it's blue? There it is, see it? Once you spray that on there, see how thick that is? You kind of just spread it around a little bit. Now you're gonna take your towel, which is folded in fours. I'm barely touching the paint. And again, we're gonna repeat that same process, meaning half the roof, half the glass, half the hood. We're gonna go that same process we did in the washing. So I'm gonna come to you. So I'll go right here, lay it down. Now we just washed the car. So we're gonna see, I spin it around. See how I'm barely touching? And you don't need to make it this dramatic. Like I go really, really fast. It takes me 5 minutes to do this. We'll turn it around and see if we found anything. Go back in, we look. Yeah, it looks pretty good. Nothing really dripped on the car or fell from, you know, the sky or the tree or whatever. You wring it out, and then you add another quick squirt. You just look at everything, make sure there's nothing in there. See that? See how it comes out where it's not like spray waxy? It's very thick. That's what you want. Get it in there. Now we're gonna go this low like we did before, right? You can go right over glass if you want. Now I wanna show you on the hood. So let's go to the hood over here. So you're gonna take this, you're gonna do 1 or 2 squirts. Again, super thick. Lay it down, wipe it. Now if you look, you can see there's a little bit of a streak. You see that right there? That's what you want. That's the lubrication working right there. So you just wipe it over again, and that streak is gonna get absorbed into the paint, into the pores of the paint. You're basically adding lubrication and some protection. And while doing that, you're gonna see in the towel, like here's a perfect example. Oh, look, another one. Here, I'll lay this down just for demonstration. This is a perfectly clean towel, and I just washed it like crazy. Look, a little bit of something I must have caught in the seam, or something I didn't wash effectively. Now, if you had done that with a chamois and run over that, you'd literally just be rolling that over the paint and scratching. So this alone, this technique of drying your car with a microfiber towel, changed the way your car looks. It's one of the best things I think that's come out in a long time. So repeat the same exact process all the way around the car, and that's how you dry it.
With the paint dry, it's now time to dry the wet wheels with the hydrate method and a different microfiber towel that will only be used on the wheels and not the paint. Much the same idea as the tiny dirt spots left on the paint, I promise you the wheels will have a missed spot. Be prepared to see black streaks on your microfiber towel, so designate it as your wheel and door jamb towel going forward. Keep in mind, wheels tend to scratch very easily because of the brake dust, so avoid dry wiping as much as possible. Quickly dab dry the rubber tires and wheel wells with a terry towel, then use a terry towel to wipe the kick panel, underneath, and sides of the door. If you forget to dry the underneath of your door, the next time you close it, the water that's there will splash up onto your once dry door jambs, collect dust while you're driving, and be annoyingly dirty the next time you open the door. Honestly, for me, it's just super annoying to clean a car perfectly, then forget one spot that you see every time you get in and out of your car. It makes me nuts. So spend 5 seconds now to avoid grinding your teeth later. With all the doors open from cleaning the jambs, make sure to remove the rubber and carpet floor mats while you're there to save an extra step. Be sure to avoid throwing the carpets in a leftover puddle from your previous wash, and just keep them to the side for now. Next, put all the rubber mats together on the ground and squeeze your foam wash mitt over the mats to fill the grooves with soap. Then, use your wheel brush to agitate the dirt, rinse, and quickly dry with a terry cloth before leaning them up against the wall and out of direct sunlight. If you notice in our rules section on the master guide, direct sunlight may cause the rubber to discolor, and don't ever add dressing to the floor mats or pedals for safety concerns.
Now the paint in the wheels are perfectly cleaned and dried. Now it's time to work on the interior. But because this is a Sunday wash and we're not doing a full-blown 25-hour detail, we're not gonna shampoo the headliner, shampoo the carpets and the seats. You're not doing this on a regular basis. But what I do encourage you to do is go inside, kind of take a peek around, see if there's any drips or spills or something that may have happened since the last time you looked at the interior. And in particular, if you find something on the carpet or the cloth, you're gonna go in with some shag fabric cleaner and a little brush and a microfiber towel. You're gonna squirt some of this on there, agitate it with the brush, and scoop it up with the microfiber towel. Now, if that doesn't work, you can go in with a scrub pad and scrub that area. So let me pull you in and show you how it works.
Okay, because this is a beginner series and because we're simply cleaning and protecting, clearly I'm not going to be breaking out a shampoo machine and start wet vacuuming the upholstery on a Sunday wash. Instead, I encourage you to quickly look around for any drips or spills in your carpet, Alcantara, or cloth seats if you have them. If so, use a few squirts of shag fabric cleaner and an interior brush to agitate the stain or blemish. Then immediately blot dry with a microfiber towel. If the stain persists, however, use a scrub pad and repeat the process again. The key to cleaning interior stains is to get at them as quickly as possible, so spot cleaning on your weekly or bi-weekly wash can be a lifesaver. Next, vacuum the interior by starting on the driver's side closest to the center console. There's always fun stuff jammed in this crevice. Then work your way back towards the door, looking underneath the seat, not only for dirt, but for a baseball, tennis ball, softball, or water bottles that can slide under your pedals under heavy braking. This is actually way more common than you might think, so avoid it if you can during this process. Once the footwell is done, vacuum the seats by laying down the seat back to be able to vacuum between the seat bottom and the seat back crevice. Then, use your finger to spread open the seat bolsters to allow the vacuum crevice tool to get in between the seams. Now this may sound insignificant, but over time, dirt will get trapped in this area and cause the stitching to break down and wear out as you get in and out of the car under the weight and friction of your body. So at the very least, clean out the driver's side bolster closest to the door. I only recommend using the thin crevice tool as the flathead or wide body nozzles are not effective at getting into the small spots, plus the increased size actually decreases the amount of suctioning power compared to a narrow orifice. Once the front area is done, push the seat forward and vacuum from the middle of the car to the door, then the seats and so on, and work your way around the car. Then do the trunk, the passenger rear, and the passenger front. This process should not take more than 10 or 15 minutes if you maintain a weekly or bi-weekly regimen. Next, on any leather, plastic, or vinyl, lightly spray AMMO lather on a microfiber towel and quickly wipe the area. For most of the interior material, this is really just a healthy dusting to remove the grease from your hand and accumulated dead skin cells, especially on the steering wheel. If a stain is found, use the interior brush or scrub pad with lather and gently agitate the material until the lather is built, then quickly wipe it away before it dries. Again, this is 5 to 10 minutes at most during a maintenance wash.
All right, come here. Let me give you a real-world example. My wife just came home, so I figured I'd show you guys. This is the 2009 Subaru Outback. We've had it since 2009. And naturally, my wife wanted tan, I'll call it white interior. Take a look at that. That's me doing it, I want to say maybe every 3 weeks, maybe every month, because she's always out and traveling and doing stuff and rock climbing. And if you keep this, why am I showing you this? This is white interior, and we've had it for, what is that, 8, 9 years? Yeah, 8 years. Doing math quick on camera. And it looks pretty good. And then back here, we have a new addition, a baby. So, and it's still, if you look back here, it looks good to me, and it's a tan interior. The other thing I just noticed while we were talking on camera, there's a spot right where she sits right there that I need to get out. But, you know, I'm gonna go over right now with some shag, touch it up a little bit. I just wanted to show you this because, look, it's not the cleanest thing in the world. I have to clean it next in probably a couple days this weekend. But if you follow the right routine and just kind of touch it up as you go, even tan/white interior after 8 years and a baby looks pretty good. Okay, here's a perfect example. See this little spot right here? So I'm gonna take a little bit of shag, shake it up, put it on that spot, let it sit for a second. I'm gonna go straight to the scrub pad. You can use a brush, but my experience tells me a scrub pad is probably gonna be better for this little coffee stain. We're gonna go in there. Then right after that, we go in. Now we just need to let that dry, but you can see that coffee stain is gone. The purpose of me showing you this is if you find a little spot, it takes 20 seconds. That probably even took less than 20 seconds for me to clean that out. Now it's good to go. Give that a few minutes, maybe an hour or whatever, it'll dry. And the car, you're prolonging the life of the car. It's the same idea I mentioned before, cutting the grass. You don't let the grass grow for 6 months and then go cut it. It's a nightmare. You cut it every week. Same kind of idea with the car. And this is like the perfect example. 8 years, white interior, wife and a baby. Yikes. Okay, so area 5 in our sequence is, of course, the glass. That's the last thing you want to touch. Now, the glass causes a bunch of issues, and we all know that cleaning it is a huge pain in the butt. And if you think about it logically, there's 3 or 4 reasons why it's such a pain in the butt. One, you're looking through it, so it's glass, and there's a smudge here. You're going to constantly see it in your eyesight. Number 2 is it's the face of your car. And when you're driving, you're going to be getting the grease and the exhaust and all the stuff that's on the road. That makes sense. The third one is a little bit of a weird one, where you have plastic in your dashboard. As the sun heats it up, it releases gases and it sticks to the inside. And we've all done that. We kind of wipe it like, what is this yellow gunk? That's kind of what's happening on the inside of the glass, usually with newer cars. But to get around this, we do a couple of different things. And one of them is a 3-towel method. In the 3-towel method, you are scooping up a lot of the grease that's on the glass. Now, let me give you a quick example. If I were to take a cup of water and drink it and everything is great, and I take one little drop of motor oil in there, that glass is now contaminated. That same concept we use for glass towels. So if you take a clean glass towel, pretend it's on my hand right now, and I wipe this grease like this, that towel, this side, is now contaminated. You can't wipe this area over here, you're only gonna spread it. So that kind of thought process, I think, escapes a lot of people, and that's why we do more circles and we push harder and we rub in the corner and we're basically just spreading that oil around the car. So the 3-towel method sort of prevents that. I'm gonna show you that right now. Step number 1 sounds pretty simple. That's to make sure that you put gloves on. A lot of guys have really dirty hands because they're cleaning their car, and then they wipe their hands on the towel and they use the towel to clean the glass. There again, you're putting contamination on it. So make sure you put gloves on or wash your hands. Now, the 3-towel method, very, very important. Now we have the first towel here. I leave them on my shoulder because I don't like to lay them on the paint either, because we just, you know, there may be wax on the paint, there may be water on the paint. Again, contamination is the key to success with glass. The first towel here, this is what I call the throwaway towel. So right now, if you look in these edges here, we'll pull it in a second, there's lots of black stuff and maybe a little bit of leaves or something that we missed. And when we're gonna work with our second towel, which is the glass towel, you're gonna contaminate it. So this purpose of this one here is to literally spray, just thick, get it in the edges, and you're gonna wanna just wipe as much as you can. Now the glass isn't gonna be pretty at this point. You're really using this, like I say, as a throwaway towel. You wanna pick up and catch the edges and get all the, see that right there? You wanna get all that black. The reason that you're doing that is your second towel, the very fancy and beautiful and kind of expensive towel that's made, this one is a waffle weave for glass, which is a lower pile microfiber. You don't want this one to get black streaks on it or get some big smudge that was already there. So you've already wiped once, right? A really quick wipe. The second one, you're gonna hit with your glass cleaner again, right? You're gonna take your nice glass towel back and forth, right? Overlapping. You can go this direction as well. Now, notice there's no black streaks on it. So I'm pretty confident nothing has been contaminated, right? I take my third towel immediately, doing it a little bit slower on camera. I put this one on my shoulder. Immediately afterwards, I take my clean microfiber towel and just do light circles. The key here is do it a little bit faster than I just did. Again, we're on camera. And you're gonna wanna pick up any leftover water from the second towel. Now, the reason you do that is that leftover water that dries, that causes watermarks or streaks or things like that. Now, the way that I do it is first I do half the glass, then I do half the glass on the outside. I love having nice fresh towels for the outside of the glass. And then I work my way around and I'll do, on this side, I'll do the outside of the glass, the inside of the glass, the outside of the glass, inside of the glass, the rear, outside, inside, outside, inside, outside, inside. Then we're gonna go to the inside of the glass, which is a totally different thing. Now, if your glass is really, really dirty, you may go through maybe 1 or 2 sets of these. But I can guarantee you when you work on the inside of the glass, you're gonna start all over again because we're gonna do a little bit of a different technique, and you're gonna need fresh new towels because the inside of glass is always disgusting. So let's do that. All right, I'm sure by now you guys are saying, the 3 towel method, are you crazy? You know how much more time that takes? In reality, you're actually shrinking the amount of time to clean glass properly. So the 3 towel method is brilliant. So this is the one that we used before, and what we're doing is putting that on the floor. We're done with that. So I'm repeating it, and you can see I have all new towels right here. And the reason we're doing that is the interior glass is a beast of its own. And these steps are really the fastest way to clean it properly as opposed to just wiping around. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to add a little step in between, or I should say ahead of the 3 towel method. The first one is we have rubbing alcohol here. Now I've popped this off and I put it in this one. I've had this one for a long time. It's 50% water and 50% rubbing alcohol or isopropyl alcohol. So let's put that to the side. So if you do a mix, you mix it up like this. What this is going to do is degrease the glass first. You're going to use two methods for that. If it's halfway decent, like not too bad, you can just spray it on here, because you don't want to spray it on the glass itself. The mist will come down, and actually on some dashboards like this, you'll actually get discoloration, so don't do that. Or if it's really bad, you can put it in your scrub pad and scrub it. So this section over here is particularly bad. So what I'm going to do is take my cleaner. You can see I'm just barely pushing it out here. Okay, put that down on the old towels. Now I'm going to take this, and you can see my hands like this. You're going to hold it, and you're going to flip upside down. That's the reason we come in from the passenger side here. So you're going to put your hand down here, lean in, because if we did it from this side, we'd be stuck with the steering wheel, obviously. So come in, you turn it upside down, and spin. See that? Look at all that stuff coming off. That is a degreaser, and this is okay. Remember, the first time you do this, it's not going to look pretty. The first pass. That's why we call it a throwaway towel. You're really just picking up all the grease that's left over on the glass. So now I'm cutting through it pretty hard right now, which is great. I'm letting the degreaser do its job. See all that right there? It's fighting. If you remember, there was streaks right here. Actually, I can see it. That degreaser is chewing it up right now. So I'll put the scrub pad down. I'll take my throwaway towel. You're just picking up all the leftover grease. I'm going to go down. This is just a quick, what we call like a mow down pass. You're just picking up. So I'm going to roll this over. And we're going to pick up the grease again. Oh, you can see it. You can feel it. I don't know if you can even hear it. It's sticky. The interior glass is just a nightmare. I'd rather polish the entire car than do the interior glass. All right, so now I've picked up the grease. All right, so I'm going to leave that there. Second one, we're going to go our towel method now. Instead of spraying it on the glass, again, you really don't want glass cleaner on here. You're just going to spray a little bit here. Now the goal here is to regulate the amount of cleaner. When we're doing the 3 towel method on the rest of the glass around the car, it's really about how fast does that towel get full of water. If you have too much glass cleaner in there, you're going to cause streaking. So it's kind of regulating that. Okay, so that's the good one. Now quickly take your other 350 GSM microfiber towel, and now you're just buffing it off. Now you're just cleaning off the last little section. And again, I know a lot of you are saying, man, that seems like a lot of work. Believe me, if you try to take a shortcut here, it's going to totally burn you. You're going to be chasing grease around forever. All right, so that's half the glass. Look at that. That's absolutely perfect. Now you're going to repeat that step right here, and you can still use the same towel. It really depends on how greasy the inside of the glass is, but that's the technique for doing the glass, the outside first, and you're going to totally focus on the inside separately. Separate towels, clean. You're going to add in your first method, again, 50% water, 50% isopropyl alcohol. It could be 70 or 90%. This is 91, it's fine. And then you can keep this forever on your shelf, and every time you do the inside of the glass, this guy comes out all the time. It's one of my favorite tools. Do the inside, and you're all set. But as we all know, glass is a huge pain in the butt, but if you use this method, you'll be in good shape. Okay, now that we've cleaned the car properly and we've dried the car properly, you spot cleaned the inside, and we did all the glass in the 3 towel method. The car is looking spectacular. It is clean, but it's not yet protected. For that, we're gonna work it in the next episode.
This is just one video within the AMMO Training Academy. To go through the entire course and to learn how to detail your car properly, visit AMMONYC.com and click on the training link.